So welcome everybody. Today I'm going to talk about relationship diversities and we'll try to make it a little fun for us all. My name is Silva. I am a member of the UKCP, that's the UK Council for Psychotherapy, and also COSRT, that's the College of Sexual and Relationship Therapists. And I am a clinical associate to Pink Therapy. So that's why I'm here today, because I'm a specialist in sexuality and relationships. And so first of all, I'd like us to think about what we mean about relationships. So just take a moment, take a deep breath. When you see that word relationship, what comes up for you? Some people, they automatically think of romance, for example. Some people think of dating. Some people think of sex. But can we think of relationships in a broader sense even? Are we having a relationship right now, you and I? We don't know each other, but we are connecting at this moment. So is it a relationship? Can we have relationships with colleagues? People you know? The person who serves your coffee down the street? Friendships. Friendships are relationships. And even, can we have relationship with technology? So let's just think about that. Let's think about relationships. What do we mean by it? How do you understand it? Now, when you look at relationships, there are myths, a lot of myths about it. And so that's why, I do this kind of talks all the time, because a lot of people battle with so many myths, and people get into relationships, or they think about relationships, or they think about love and sex and connection with, sometimes they feel like they're in the dark because there's so much misinformation out there with plenty of myths. So let's look at the few typical myths that we absorb almost every day. And I'd like to say I am based in the UK, but those myths are almost international in any Western countries. So it's not just only Europe, it's prevalent in the United States, in Canada, in South America, pretty much all over the place. Number one myth, we must find the one. And that one person must be everything for us, and we must be everything for them. We have to meet all of their needs. And we are not enough alone. So if we don't get to meet the one, where we're kind of like not complete. And also, love conquers all. All you need is love. And I'm sure you have recognized that those kind of messages, those kind of myths, we hear it in songs all the time. We see it in movies all the time, and even in children's cartoons and stories. So those kind of myths, we absorb them from at a very young age in our childhood with fairy tales. We get those myths already embedded in our psyche, and not really realizing that those myths are ones that then pull the strings in how we navigate our relationships. And here are some more myths, relationship myths now. Infidelity, right? If you look at the movies, all the stories, that infidelity is portrayed as the tragedy with deadly consequences. Think of Fatal Attraction, for example, right? And so many stories, the movies, criminal movies, disaster movies, where the actual ending, the good ending, is the reuniting of the family, the reuniting of the relationship. Monogamy is seen as the gold standard of relationships. That's the best, that's what you should have. And monogamy, because of that, is considered simple, calm, peaceful. It's associated with happiness. If you can get monogamy with the one and meet all of their needs and never have anyone cheating on you, you have made it. It's success. And all of these messages, all of these myths, actually, they are embedded in heteronormativity. And heteronormativity means that it is the script, the one script that is to do with heterosexuality, which is, and usually white heterosexuality, which is about meeting the partner, the opposite sex partner, preferably, marrying them as soon as possible, and then being happy ever after. And those are the fairy tales. Our fairy tales are happily ever after once you meet the one and you can, and love conquers all. But heteronormativity and monogamy and all of those relationship myths are invented stories. They're not true. They're not real. They're not fitting everybody in the human race. And it is actually, monogamy is actually a construct that dates back from the Roman Empire and early Christianity. And in those times, in early Christianity, the gold standard actually was abstinence until you get married. But if you could not be abstinent, the second best was to only meet one person you could have sex with, but you had to marry them pretty quick. And that's how it all started. So it's really about a really strong Christian message that is sex negative, and that really doesn't include any kind of any parts of our desires and wanting and needs in terms of the complex human beings that we are. And yet, still today in 2021, so many of us are going on that path of monogamy and that path of reaching that successful relationship, still on those rules of early Christianity. And again, all of that heteronormativity comes with what Meg John Barker talks about, the relationship escalator. If you haven't bought their book yet, called Rewriting the Rules, I highly recommend. It's a great book by Meg John Barker. And the relationship escalator is this. First, you date, right? You meet somebody, you date them. Then after you date them, if you like them on the first few days, you're going to have sex with them, right? When you have sex with them, and that also goes pretty well, then you agree with each other not to date anyone else, and you delete your Tinder profile, and you change your Facebook status to in a relationship. And then after that, if that goes well for a few months, then you move in together. And when that goes well, you get married. And when that goes well, you have children. And that's it. That's the relationship escalator that millions and millions and millions of people on this planet are going for, that escalator, not really often knowing what they are doing. They're going on that escalator because that's the only one that society says you should go for that. And people do, and people go for that. And as a specialist in sex and relationship, what I hear a lot in my consulting room is that people often say, once they've done all of it, and they've got the children and everything, they come to me and they say, I never made any decisions. I never made any decisions based on me and based on my ideas. I just went for what everybody else did. And so what that means is that all those relationship myths, all these Christianity messages, all this relationship escalator, they actually encourage people to sleepwalk into relationships, and almost on an unconscious way. And that's what, in the long run, creates problems. Now, I'm not saying that monogamy is not good. I'm not saying that getting married is not good and having children is not good. Of course not. This relationship escalator is totally great for many people, but it's not great for everybody. And mostly, whatever relationship escalator you're going to go for, you've got to go for it consciously, knowing what you are actually doing. Because the other side of the coin of this relationship escalator and all those relationship myths is that it creates a lot of stigma and a lot of shame for the people who choose to be together but live in separate houses. They never want to move in together. Can you imagine if you meet somebody at a party and they say, yeah, we've been together for 10 years, but we live separately. People will be like, oh, that's weird, right? There must be an issue here. That's the stigma of being outside of the escalator. Some people choose polyamory. Yeah, you know, we've been together for 10 years and we love each other and it's our primary relationship, but we also have other relationships. We also meet other people and that's great for us. Really? Oh gosh, there must be something wrong there. And what about the people choosing not to have children? That is probably still now in 2021 in our cultures, the one of the biggest offense, choosing not to have children. Gosh, they must be so selfish, so bad, so wrong. What is the point in life if you can't have children? So think about that, because again, the way that we can be really quite unconscious and sleepwalking into relationships, we can also take on a lot of the stigma and a lot of the shame for us if we decide that we're not going to be part of that escalator. But also, if we are part of that escalator, we can quite unconsciously shame others that are not in that space. So, you know, it's a good time now for you to really think about it, to think about what are the first reactions that you get, or the first thoughts that you get, or the first judgments that you get when you see people both on the relationship escalator or those outside of it. You know, what comes up for you when you think of those things? And now love. Okay, so let's think about that a little bit more, because love is a word, okay, a four-letter word, but what does that really mean? So just take a moment again to check what comes up for you. The first things that comes up for you when you see and hear the word love. For a lot of people, those are some of the things that come up. Safety, a secure base, comfort, holding, feeling held, a shared vision, a strong bond. It's soft and sweet. It's warm. It's a place of belonging. It's coupledom. It's family, companionship, being seen in our day-to-day, support, care. It's a consistent togetherness. And by that, it feels like it's sailing in calm water. It's sailing in calm water because it's the belonging, it's a place of home. You know what you're going to get. Coming home every evening and there is love, you know, and the loving partner, you know what you get. It's consistent. That's some of the stuff that comes up for a lot of people. And all of it is great, right? We need that. We need that. As human beings, we need to feel that we belong. We need to feel that we can be held. We need to have a shared vision with the people we share our lives with. We need to have a bond. It needs to feel warm. We need to feel like we can be supported and cared for in troubled times. We need to be seen, really truly seen, and somebody to know us really. What's behind the everyday facade that we all have sometimes, to somebody that can look at you and think, I know you, I know exactly what you're thinking right now. I know what you're feeling right now. Sometimes it feels so great to have that one person or several people that can really know you in that depth. A secure base, very important for our well-being, to have that secure base, to have that sense of safety. And now, what about the erotic? So again, take a moment to check what comes up for you, the first thing that comes up for you when you think of erotic. For many people, these are some of the things that come up. It's new, it's exciting, it's fireworks, it's raw, spicy, illicit, dangerous, and PC outside of politically correctness. It's naughty, unedited, edgy, uncomfortable, passionate, hard-hitting, being seen in a moment of passion, outside of all the confirmed roles that we all have. And so it's the equivalent of sailing in rough water. It's the opposite to the love in some ways. But when you sail in rough water, you have to be so focused. So you've got to be so focused on the moment. It's not knowing what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get, but being focused in the moment and being seen in that moment of passion, even if it's with a stranger you never met before, you can be seen in the most precious place of your heart and your erotic world, being seen in a moment of passion. How so important also for us as human beings to experience, to feel passionate and uncomfortable. Sometimes when you walk on the edge of your comfort zone, the uncomfortable part is when there is a lot of excitement, there is newness, there is discoveries. It can feel dangerous too, but dangerous can be so exciting. Being unedited, think about that, how often we edit ourselves so that we can be liked by others, with friends. We can edit ourselves with our partners too, our romantic partners, because we want them to think that we're good people all the time. So you might just, edit the un-PC part or that spicy fantasy that you have, but feel like you can't share with your partner. And yet, those places of raw fireworks, exciting newness, lives inside of us. If we have a sexual desire, then we have those parts somewhere. And in fact, this is where a lot of people go to sex workers and pornography to meet those important parts of themselves. It has a real great purpose. And so here lies the dilemma in relationship. Navigating relationships can be so hard because as the complex human beings that we are, we live with competition, with competing needs. We have different needs that belong to different worlds and belong to different parts of ourselves that don't always talk to each other. I often hear people in my consulting room say things like, I want you to need me and I want you to want me. They say to their partners, that's what they say to their partner. I want you to need me. I want you to love me and need me, but I want you to want me. I want you to see me in that moment of passion, wanting. I want you to love me and I want you to ravish me. Well, how can you do both? I want you to be the one forever, that consistent sailing in plain water. And I want it to be new and exciting too. Wow, how are you going to manage that? But those are the competing needs that we have as human beings. We need both. We need the belonging, the love, and we need the excitement and the newness of the erotic. And so in my profession, that's what we call the love-lust split, because they belong to different parts of ourselves. And for some of us, the love-lust split is kind of quite close, and sometimes people can manage to build a bridge between the two. But for some of us, the love-lust splits live in almost like different universe. And people find it sometimes very hard to have a romantic relationship that is a long-term romantic relationship and still feel sexually attracted to them. For some people, the sex dies out after the romance sets in. For some people, love stifles the erotic. So if we go and look at love again, I love the concept of the 7 types of Greek love because that gives us so much a broader way of thinking about love. And I'm going to pronounce some Greek words here. So if there are some Greek people in the audience, I will probably pronounce them incorrectly. I apologize. The first one that the Greek came up with is eros. And I'm sure we've all heard of eros. Eros is the sexual passion. The Greek called it dangerous and irrational because it just takes hold of you in the moment. It's almost like possessing somebody because people don't think quite rationally when they're in that moment of passion, in that horniness moment. People make here and now decisions that can just not be quite always within the realm of reason and proper thinking. But it's one love. It's one love that sometimes we need to have. Philia is the deep friendship love. So that's the companionship, that's the sibling love, that's the family love, but it's non-erotic. It's the deep friendship or the people, the love that you have for your parents or the love that you have for your brothers and sisters. Storge is the familial love. So it's a bit different from philia because it's more about the parents to their child, and usually it's the parents to the younger children. So storge is another type of love, a very particular type of love that only exists in one type of relationship. Ludus is the playful love, and that's the casual lover love. That's the flirting, that's the teasing, that's even the sexting, all that stuff that can be really playful and really exciting, but it doesn't have to mean anything else just apart from that playful moment. But it can be a love. Why couldn't it be love? You know, when you have this fleeting moment with a casual lover, and you have that connection, that being seen in that passionate moment, that is not just about getting an orgasm. It's about connection. It's part of our love place, our hearts. We give something and we receive something. Agape is the love for everyone. So that's what we call the selfless love. It's the people that do charities, the universal love, the kindness, the human empathy, that innate empathy that we have as humans. And of course, I've put in therapy because I'm a therapist, and I think being a therapist is also about that kind of love. You know, I think a synonym to therapy can be love. You know, we give love and we help people love themselves and love others. So that's another type of love, an important one too. And pragma is the long-standing love. That's what they call, the Greek call it the mature, realistic love, the long-established love where there's compromise and patience and tolerance for each other. That's the one that keeps you going for years and years and years. But pragma doesn't talk about erotic. It doesn't talk about anything that's playful. It's the patience and the compromise and the tolerance. And the last one, philosia, and that's the love for yourself. And that's often the one that we miss, but that's an important one too. It's self-love, it's good self-esteem, knowing how to love yourself, knowing how to say kind things to yourself. And I've added masturbation because I think masturbation is solo sex, but it's also one way to love yourself and love your body. So if you look at the 7 types of great love, one thing I'd like you to think about now is how often we can, when we go about life and we have different relationships with different people, how we can actually be loving these people and have a part of our heart, our connection piece with other people, with our children, with our friends, with our families, with our co-workers even, with the people down the street serving you coffee, and with yourself. Those are relationships. Every day as we interact with people, even if you interact with somebody that you're never going to meet again, you're still having an interaction, you have a relationship. And sometimes in a relationship, even with one person, you might move from one type of love to another type of love. With some relationships, you might start a relationship with a lot of eros love, and then you might move into ludus love, a lot of play for quite some time, and then you might go into the philia love, when that person becomes more of a very, very good friend rather than an erotic casual lover. And then over time, you might go into pragma, you know, when it's about tolerance and compromise and patience, but that's a deep love too. You know, a lot of people that say, oh, you know, love has to always be passionate and full of play. Sure, it's nice to be playful with your partner. It's nice to laugh with your partner. It's nice to have some good sex with your partner. But actually, for the relationship that are really pragmatic, the relationships that are about, you know, we're going to make, you know, we keep making things work. And when something goes wrong, we fix it. And we carry on because we're a good partnership. We know how to navigate life together side by side. That in itself is enough to be a strong love relationship. So it's important to think about this, just to broaden up your mind, and that can really counter some of those myths that we have about relationships, that is going to be the one, and the one has to meet all of your needs. Really? Does it really have to meet all of your needs? Could the one person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life, or the two or the three people that you choose are going to be with you for the rest of your life, can they meet one type of love only, not all the loves? It's kind of quite a lot of pressure to put on some people to say, you got to meet all of my needs. There is no need if we can broaden our mind and think of love and think of relationships in a different way. Now, of course, when we think about relationship, another thing that we have to consider is what we call in my profession attachment styles. And attachment styles is basically some ways that we learn to attach ourselves usually based on our primary attachment with our parents or our primary caregivers. So the attachment theories are very, very large and very complex. So this is really kind of like the kind of simple version. There are basically three attachment styles that we end up having. One is the anxious attachment style. So somebody who's anxious in a relationship, they often have the core belief, I'm not okay, but you're okay. So it means that if I'm not okay, I'm very anxious not being okay. So in order to be okay, I'm going to be doing everything I can to please you, or everything I can to edit myself really, really well so that you keep liking me. And as soon as I make a mistake, I'm going to feel so anxious because I think that if I make a mistake, I'm going to be unlovable and you're going to reject me straight away. So there's a lot of anxiety about that. The avoidant attacher is the one that says, I'm okay, but you're not okay. So stay away. I like a little bit of love once in a while, but you stay at arm's length and you don't come too close because I just don't really trust people, and I'm okay as I am. I'm okay as I am. I need my space. Don't invade my space. And the secure attachers are the one that says, I'm okay and you're okay too. So we can just, meet in the middle, and I'm very confident with myself. I know you are too. And I'm not going to be feeling insecure if you decide to meet your friend and you don't want me to come along. I can totally understand that you have other needs and I don't always have to be part of your plans every time. So I'm cool with that. That's great. So that's kind of like the secure attacher. The reason why I mentioned that is because often we seek partners based on an attachment style that we have, and some of us we're not always aware of what happens in relationships. But when we are in a relationship and we start to date somebody, for example, and we start to like them, then as soon as we start to like somebody, there is all these emotions can come up. Emotions either of, I'm going to keep my distance, or, oh my gosh, they're not going to like me, they're going to never come to me again. Or the, hey, yeah, sure, you're cool, I'm cool, but we're going to keep getting to know each other better, over a few weeks and so on. But often these big, strong feelings that we have when we first attach with somebody else, we don't always think, oh gosh, I'm anxious right now. What is that about? We kind of make assumptions straight away, and we assume what the other person is thinking and feeling without asking them, and we kind of run with our emotions rather than just taking a pause and think, what is going on for me here? So I think for quite a lot of us, when we want to navigate relationships, we have to be aware of what is the core belief about myself right now that I'm having. Is it, I am not okay, you're okay, I'm okay, you're not okay, or I'm okay, you're okay? And also, I'd like to say that the attachment style theories, they have moved on for a long time. And there was some time in the past when we thought, well, attachment styles are set. That's what we like. An avoidant attacher will always be an avoidant attacher. And actually, the more recent theories in attachments have really changed. And now we think that attachment styles are fluid and they change over time. And they change with different things. Sometimes they change with time. The better we know ourselves with time, the more secure we can get. Of course, with therapy, because a lot of it comes from how we attach to our parents or to our primary caregivers. So if something went wrong in the attachment with our parents, sometimes we might just then be very anxious or be very avoidant. And so having therapy and trying to heal those wounds that might have been happening in your childhood can be a good way to change your attachment style. But also the connection with meaningful, when you connect meaningfully with others, that can also change your attachment style, because we don't always have the same attachment style. For example, if you have a really, really good friend where you don't have to edit yourself at all, where you can really relax, you might be a lot more secure in that attachment, in that friendship, that you might be with a partner who you feel inferior to. And if you say, oh gosh, my partner is so much better than me, and if I don't meet their criteria, or whatever their level, then they're gonna leave me. And so you can be anxious with one person and you can be secure with another person. You can be avoidant in one relationship and you can be secure in another relationship. And so it's important to think about this. And also it comes with circumstances. For some people, for example, a lot of people say, well, at work, I'm very secure. I'm very secure with my relationship with my colleagues, with relationship with my boss, with the relationship with my clients, because I know my job really well. I know my role. I know my position. I'm confident with my knowledge. So therefore, I have secure relationships in that moment and secure attachment. But at home, when I'm a husband or I'm a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, I feel really insecure because, and I feel very anxious because I don't know that role so much and I don't know what I'm expected to do. And I always feel I'm failing expectations and all of that stuff. So it very much depends. And I'm very much of that school of thought about attachments. They are not fixed, they are fluid and they change all the time. But the trick for us is to know and to be aware what is coming up for us when you have a relationship with a coworker, or a relationship with your best friend, or a relationship with your lover, or a relationship with your long-term partner. What comes up for you and what kind of attachment you're feeling in that moment. And it's important to know, because actually, if you're feeling secure in one relationship but anxious in another, that has something to say. And sometimes it's important to listen to what those feelings in those relationships have to say, because it means that there is always something more to learn about yourself. So if we look a little bit now about the kind of relationship that people have, right? We've just said earlier that monogamy was perceived as the gold standard, but actually it's not. It's just one relationship that is based on one construct that was invented in early Christianity. So what are the other relationships? Here are just a few for you to think about. Okay, monogamy, we've talked about that. Then there is monogamish. Have you heard of that one? I love that one. It's a great one. Monogamish is for the people that want to be monogamous with one partner at a time, but once in a while, and it depends with couples. For some couples, it's once a month. For couples, it's twice a year. For couples, it's once a year. For your birthday, where they decide that they're going to have sex with other people. So it's kind of like an allowance, if you want, to have sex with other people, to have that newness and that excitement piece of the erotic with other people. And so those relationships are called monogamish. Then we have ménage à trois. Of course, it's called threesome, but I like to put ménage à trois because I'm a French person and I quite like that word. So that is when you decide to be in a relationship with two other people. And those relationships, threesomes, are often, and we call them throuple now because they become more and more common. And those are also great ways to be in relationships, and they are not pathological. They don't cause problems as long as you can navigate it really well with being very clear and honest with everybody what are the natures of those relationships. Then it can be fantastic because it means that all of your needs can be shared by more people than just that one person who has to hold all of your needs. And so for a lot of people, it's great because with one partner, you might feel a lot more at ease connecting with some parts of yourself, and with another partner connecting with other parts of yourself. And as a whole, you can feel very, very fulfilled. And that's the same with obviously the three people in the relationship. Then we have polyamory, and that's a bit different from the throuple because polyamory is more about having multiple relationships. So it doesn't have to include just two people with yourself. It can be multiple relationships. So some people have, a lover in every city that they visit, for example, and some people have relationships, all over the place. But those relationships, polyamory usually is those relationships that are still relationship with people. So it's not always a one-off encounter it's a building relationship with multiple people. But some people call themselves polyamorous and they have a primary partner, for example, or a primary throuple, and then they have multiple sexual encounters outside of the relationship, which is part of the consented agreement with casual lovers that they don't always build relationship with. So it really varies. Polyamory can really vary, and it's really up to you and the other people involved in the relationship to really define the rules, because the rules can be anything you want as long as it's legal and consensual and it doesn't hurt anybody. The world is your oyster, basically. And open relationships, they're kind of, again, a little bit different. Open relationship is usually when there is one primary partner, and that's usually only one other. And then, but that relationship is open, meaning that the two people in the relationship can have sexual encounters with others. And that comes with also different rules. For one open relationship is different from another open relationship. Some open relationships have ground rules like only oral sex with other people and penetration only with me. Some others will have, well, a common one is, safer sex with other people and sex without a condom just with me. Other people will have things like the people that you're going to meet outside of our relationships are just one-off people. You're not going to meet them again. But in other relationships, open relationships can be, sure, you can be, having sex with people that becomes your friend. That's totally fine. So the rules really vary, really quite massively depending on the agreement. And again, those agreements are up to you and your partners to make and to really discuss very, very, very properly, in depth, every single corner of your relationship, no stones unturned, to make sure that you are exactly on the same page. Then we have aromantics, okay? We forget about those people, but they exist, they're out there. Aromantic people are people that do not have any romantic feelings for others. So they can have erotic feelings, they can have sexual relationships, but they tend to not want to attach in a romantic way. And for a long time, those people were pathologized as in, oh, there's something wrong with you, just because, well, we go back to those myths at the beginning of this presentation, where the myth is you've got to meet the one, and love conquers all, surely. But what about the people who are not interested in love? Okay, well, actually they exist, and that's part of relationship diversities. The aromantic can still build relationships, they can still have relationships, but they are mostly based on the erotic rather than the love. And then we have asexual people, and asexual people is the opposite. They don't really have any kind of sexual feelings, or they're not interested in sex that much, but they can build loving relationships, they can build romantic relationships, they can build a lot of the pragma relationship. There's kind of like long enduring relationship, but it's about companionship and compromises and supporting each other. So again, asexual people, we forget about them. And for a long time too, they were pathologized. What do you mean you don't have any sexual feeling? What do you mean you don't want to have sex? There must be something wrong with you. Not at all. That they are part of the diversities of humanity. And then we have radical fairies, and radical fairies is this other type of relationship where they basically, it's similar. They're often thought of as something similar like the modern paganism. So they are basically people who usually are in polyamorous relationships where it's love for all, and they usually connect with nature, and they live in small communities where they all kind of live together. And it's almost like the love for all. So the love for the community, and people really get involved in those kind of loving relationship with each other. And the love anarchist is another word. It's close to the radical fairies, but they may be the kind of broader in a way that it's not necessarily about connecting with nature and creating communes, but it's about people that decide that they're going to go against those that relationship escalator that we've talked about at the beginning, and to say, I am not having this. And they're very, very super conscious of those myths and those messages about relationships and about love that we keep getting now. And they are the ones that are so conscious about it that they are doing completely different stuff, and they make their own rules. They're very conscious about making their own rules. Then we have people that are gender fluid. So gender fluid is people that actually can have relationship with men and women and non-binary people and transgender people, and it doesn't matter as long as they are they really connect with them on a mind level and on a body level. And if they like that person, if they love that person, it doesn't actually matter what they look like or what kind of gender they have. And then we have queer relationships, and queer relationship is kind of can take a little bit of all of the above. There are some queer relationships that are monogamous. There's some queer relationships that can be polyamorous. There's some queer relationships that can be asexual, some that can identify as radical theories or gender fluid or whatever. And basically a queer relationship means that there's people that are not heterosexual people. And again, within the kind of queer term, it can be anything from people who have sex with men, gay men, lesbians, bisexual people, and everything in the spectrum of sexuality diversity. So a broad range, really. Some people prefer to call themselves gay people, but many prefer the term queer these days. It's a term that most people identify with more and more now, because it's less binary, I suppose, and it reflects more of diversities. So if we think about it now again, relationships, and I've talked about being really conscious about it and really knowing what the myths are, so that you can be more conscious about not going on this relationship escalator blinded or almost sleepwalking into it, which is the one thing that causes a lot of problems in relationships. So, but then when we think about choosing relationships, you also have to ask yourself, how much are you choosing? Okay, because we are choosing, of course, we're choosing the partners, the one partner or the several partners that we want to have sex with and that we want to have relationships with, because that's part of consent, obviously. But also, let's consider that just as sexual orientation, whether you are bisexual, gay person, or heterosexual person, or whatever in between, that's an orientation. You don't choose that. And actually, we also have a relationship orientation. And the relationship orientation is that we, in order to achieve the best well-being for us, we have to choose the relationship that fits with us better. So sometimes it's not really a choice, but it's knowing inside of your core, what is your relationship orientation? Because some people choose monogamy because they think it's the right thing to do, they think it's the gold standard, but they are miserable all their lives. And often they blame themselves. I'm miserable, I'm not a good partner, why can't I just be like the other people? But it could be that they're having a relationship that's outside of the orientation. Some people are quite naturally monogamous, but some people are naturally polyamorous. And we have to know that. We have to know what the orientation is, so that we can then be choosing the relationships and choosing the partners that's based on our relationship orientation, not what is based on what society tells us or the movies are telling us. And also the relationship orientation, although it's very diverse, can change over time, like everything else. Nothing, things are fluid, nothing is static. So it's also getting to know yourself very well, but keeping in touch with how you're feeling and checking and reviewing on a regular basis, what are you getting from those relationships? And choosing a relationship is based on your relationship orientation, but it has to be an affirmative relationship. It's important to choose a relationship that is not about avoiding problems, but about really positively engaging in that relationship. So to explore relationships, first of all, you have to think of consent. What are you really consenting to? If you're having a monogamous relationship, what are you consenting to? No stones unturned. You've got to talk about monogamy with your partner. You've got to know what it means for you, because monogamy can mean one thing for somebody and mean something completely different for somebody else. The same if you're polyamorous, the same if you want a ménage à trois, the same if you're in an open relationship. You have to talk about it. What does it mean to me and what does it mean to you, to make sure you're on the same page? And with that, you then draw the boundaries and you make sure that you know yourself really well so that you know what you want, not what society wants, what you want. And also be aware of your competing needs in terms of love and erotic, and where is the bridge between the two, and what are the needs, your needs, that might not be met in that particular relationship. And open the possibilities of the different loves and how you define love. There can be 7 types of love, not just the one romantic sex love that must live together perfectly well. And you can think creatively, you know, as long as it's legal and consensual, your relationship is your own and you can make your own rules if you want. But you have to be honest first. And that means being honest with yourself first, being honest with your relationship orientation, being honest with your wants, honest with your needs, and honest with your competing needs, so that then you can have a better map to navigate your relationships. And as I said, you know, choosing your relationship from a positive point rather than, oh, I'm going to be in that relationship because I don't want to feel insecure, or I'm going to choose that relationship because I don't want to look at this other uncomfortable part of me. You know, then if you choose a relationship based on avoiding issues, you are more likely going to sleepwalk into a relationship that might not be the right one for you. And with any relationships, you have to be very clear and realistic with the agreement that you're making with that other partner. And review is another thing that people forget, is to review. You know, if you have a relationship and you commit to a long-term relationship needs reviewing, because as the years go by, you change, we change, everybody changes. And as we change, sometimes we change ideas, we change the way that we do things and what we desire. So you have to review your relationship. It doesn't mean that you need to end the relationship, but to review it so that you can make sure that you keep updated about what you want and what your partner wants. In your early 20s, maybe your favorite dessert was a chocolate cake, but in your late 50s, maybe your favorite dessert is a cherry pie. Okay, we change. So you've got to keep in touch with yourself and your partners. And just just to finish off here, just to talk about being connected. I've talked about this earlier, about being, you know, that connection piece, the love and the relationship is about connecting with your heart. And so you have to really think about that too, to be conscious about how you connect with yourself, how you connect with the meaning for others, how you connect with the non-meaning for others, and how you connect with the world out there. Because all of that will inform also your attachment style and will inform how you navigate your relationships. If you think the world is a bad place out there, that might really have an impact on how you're going to attach to people. If you connect with meaningful wants, editing yourself all the time because you're not connecting with yourself very well, then that will have an impact on your relationships. So pay attention to this, pay attention to your connection, because as human beings, with everything we do literally every day, we connect with a person, with the world, with technology, with something. We are always in connection with something. So pay attention to that, how you connect. And whatever relationship you choose, whatever is your relationship orientation, there are some basic good principles for relationships, and those are these: honesty, trust, shared values, kindness, respect, and obviously consent. And these are very, very important, because in relationships, even in rocky times, in your relationship, you have to remain kind and respectful for your lovers, your partners, your friends, your co-workers, the person serving you coffee down the street. And that's the last thought. Remember, if there's one thing to take away from today's presentation, remember, only you know what kind of relationships fits you. So get to know yourself and have the relationship that's going to make you thrive.